Hey guys, Bob here and welcome back to the channel. If you have not done so, please click that like and subscribe button if you like what you see. And let's just dig into what we're going to talk about today. So it is January 2023 and it's been about 1 year since Arken has come out with the EP5. When these optics first came out, I went ahead and bought a couple of them like a lot of people did. We were excited, for this scope to come out. So going to talk about my ownership of the EP5 over the last year. I do have some content out there that talks about the features of the scope as well as some of the abuse that I put the scope through. We took and tested the scope as far as tested it to the elements, lots of round count through the scope, talked about the reticle and even the glass and the clarity and things like that. But over the duration of the last year, I really took the opportunity to take the scope and test it beyond the normal limits of what we may expose a scope like this to, whether we're civilians or even military type people. So let's talk just for a second here about some of the things I did. I started off with general things that might be considered mishaps. So I would drop the scope or bang it around a little bit. I would crank a little extra excessively fast and see if I could get a failure. I had dirt and grime and things like that going on. I took and amped that up to a level of silliness over the last summer, fall, and early into the winter now here. I had this thing rolling around in the back of my truck for a good chunk of the summer, not mounted to anything. No, I'm not going to roll a rifle around back there. So just optic, banging around back there with scope caps on it. And I've since taken it and I've really generally accepted that this thing's not going to fail under everyday conditions, so I've got to up the ante here. And I took the scope and I buried it in sand, cranked the heck out of it, dragged it through mud, loamy soil, clay, all kinds of nasty stuff, really trying to see, can I get some material to work its way into the scope? Will one of the components fail? Will a mechanism inside bind up, grind up, leak? Will the reticle fail, the light up part of that? I banged this thing around. I dropped it out of trees that might be considered the height that a hunter would hunt out of. I banged it around as like if it would fall off of something. I banged it to the degree, everything short of running it over with my pickup truck. I pounded tent stakes in with this thing. So I'm going to take the scope. We're going to take a look at it. It is still in its state of nastiness. And I'm going to clean this thing up. I'm hoping to get it remounted back onto a rifle tomorrow and get this thing out to the gun range and see, will it hold a zero? Will it still track? And how is the glass? So during all of the silliness that I did have the Arken flip caps on it. Two reasons. One, I want to see, hey, how do these things hold up? And also, I understand, if I do shatter or crack the glass, I can't review it anymore. And whether it's scope A, B, or C from manufacturer A, B, or C, glass is glass. And I don't know of any of them touting their glass to be any stronger than anybody else. We're talking coatings of clarity here. We're talking the mechanisms clicking smoothly and tracking right and things like that. So with all that said, let's take a look at this scope that's got thousands of rounds through it, all kinds of nastiness as far as swamps, cornfields and all that banging around. Let's take a look at this thing before I get her mounted back up and see how it holds up. And my caveat on most all these videos is you decide, is this thing worth your hard-earned money? All right, and here is the EP5 that I've been testing out, and we can spend a minute just looking at this thing. I brought it inside and I want to get it cleaned up before I put this thing back on one of my rifles, but before we do so, let's check it out a little bit. Turrets are still functioning, despite all the dirt and grime and whatnot on there. And doesn't seem to feel like anything has worked its way inside. The clicks are still clear and audible like they were before all of this. Got quite a bit of material on here, and once it's broken free, I'm messing with parallax here. I can hear a little bit of sound there, but I'm not feeling it. So I don't think it's worked inside. I think it's more just along the seal here on there. Let's see here, you know. Pop this guy open. Now let's see if the connection still works. Let me bring her up a little bit. There's so much on here, I can't tell what setting we're on here, or if I can even get it to light up. I'll mess around. We will double check this once I remount this thing. Cap sort of fogged up a little bit, and I can't tell if the illumination is still working, so we'll double check that once we get this thing cleaned up. Alright, so I'm going to pop that cap back on. Looks like we've got a fair degree of wear on the finish. The bell right here, the largest part of the scope, which was rubbing on things as I kind of abuse this guy here. But the big thing is turrets. That's what everybody seems to ask about often. And these actually feel and sound just as they did before everything. So let's get this guy cleaned up. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of continue with the abuse here, and I'm not going to get extra sensitive in any way. I'm going to put some water on it. Squirt some soap all over it here. Spend a little time cleaning this. And let's check something here real quick. Oh yeah, still smooth. Audible, crisp, clear. And this one is smoothed back out. Alright. So, this is quite dirty here. So I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to finish cleaning this thing up, and we're going to get this guy up to the range and mount it back up. So. Alright guys, I am out at the range, and I have our test EP5 all mounted up on a CZ457 22 long rifle. I've been out here for a little while, braving the cold, and working to get this optic zeroed back in and to see if the turrets were working, if the glass is still clear, if everything is functioning as it did before I started to abuse the scope. So let's get right to it. So I've got the scope all mounted up, followed the same procedures as before, and the parallax adjustment seems to still move smooth and seems to focus as it's intended to do, as well as my adjustment underneath this cap here. There was all kinds of gunk and everything up underneath there. Now let's get to the zeroing process. So when I went to zero the scope in, I didn't have any problems at all. The scope quickly tracked, quickly got me on target where I was aiming. I did run into a problem when it came to setting the zero stop. As I started working with the zero stop and moving the turret around and stuff a little bit, I started to get a binding in the scope. And I'm going to talk about that more in a second here. And I assumed I actually had a failure with the optic. I stopped messing with that zero stop for a minute and started to work through the tracking process. So I was moving the scope turret around and trying to do the box setup here. And I was going a little bit to the left and the right, up and down. And everything was tracking well. However, the turret on the up here to do my elevation, I was getting some tight spots and loose spots, and it seemed like a mechanism was having some problems. However, I wasn't feeling any grinding or anything like debris had worked inside. So I'm going to show you guys what happened. All right, so I've already loosened up the Allen set screws here on the elevation turret. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to show you guys there is some water still up underneath there. All right, so taking a quick look at this. This stainless steel part right here that we're looking at, this is the mechanism that sets your zero stop, okay? Well, what I had happen, these very small little Allen sets that hold this mechanism in place, I had one of those loosen up, and this right here was ever so canted, just a very, very little bit. And what was happening when this cap was tightened and this was back in place how it was supposed to be, as I would turn this, with this not being perfectly level any longer, I was getting a kind of a binding feeling. It would be clicking fine, but it would move real easy and then tighten up, and then real easy and tighten up again. And so I started exploring, pulled this off, checked everything out, and I have fixed this. These are extremely small Allen screws with extremely light torque settings, or spec settings. I wouldn't suggest you mess with those, but I've got to think back to what did I do to cause this failure. Well, again, this optic has been abused and thrown around, banged. As I said, I was pounding tent stakes in, dropping this thing 16 feet out of oak trees, rolling around the back of my pickup truck, all kinds of different stuff going on. Freezing water underneath here that may have been expanding and causing some problems. But I want to get back to what I did. So I loosened this up all the way, gave this a little snug to level it. I actually had put a socket on here, leveled it off, tightened it back up, and I've just got this loose right now to show you guys, but everything's smooth and tracking. It's not binding any longer like I thought. So there was my solution with that. All right, so aside from the zero stop mechanism loosening up a little bit, I haven't experienced any failures with the scope. Everything is tracking fine, everything is refocusing. Even the illumination that I was having some troubles earlier when I cleaned it and I couldn't see is working fine. There was so much steam and everything from the water all over the lens that I couldn't see the red illumination, but that's working fine. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of shoot through with this. You guys can see the clarity of the glass. I did not clean this glass like you would normally clean your glass. I used an old towel that was laying around, wiped the dirt and everything off after it was rinsed some, to see how that was going to do, how things were going to hold up. So I've got the scope lined up right now at the 300-yard mark. I've got the parallax set to my eye, and I've got it at the max magnification setting. So I'm going to get some footage for you guys, and let's see what you think. If this thing is still clear, if it looks a little bit worse than yours, or than this thing did or should. Okay, so here we are. We are zoomed in to the max magnification, and actually maybe a smidge off of that, but we're looking at 300 yards. I am trying to hold this camera steady, so don't mind that little bit of a gray haze we're getting, but you can see the optic is still very clear. There doesn't seem to be any blurring or anything of that sort going on here. So this is 300 yards at the max setting. Probably closer to about 23 or 4 really. Alright guys, so let's take a minute and finish this up. Let's wrap it up. Do you think the Arken EP5 holds up to the standards that they put on the box? Is this thing durable? And if I have to give it a review for everyday general use that people are going to put this thing through, everything that I've subjected it to is really over the top. You know, I'm going to have to give this thing a definite 10, a thumbs up. I beat this thing up pretty good and really dragged it through all kinds of garbage that I thought would have had something fail on it. I really would have thought that there would have been some kind of debris getting up inside of it at some point, making the turrets crunchy or even the focus crunchy. Don't mind the crunchy tractor behind me. But, so back to the rifle here. So, you know, I'm going to give this thing a positive review. I'm not so sure I would call the situation I have with the zero stop moving out of place a little bit a deal breaker for this optic. I really don't think that anybody in any kind of a normalized situation, whether it is civilian or military, is really going to have something like that happen. If it is something that you wanted to work through, you know, there might be some simple solutions to keep them Allen keys from backing out a little bit. They're very, very tiny. I really wouldn't want to go and put too much torque on them or add Loctite or anything like that. I don't think you'd ever get them back out. But again, I'm going to give this scope a 10, a thumbs up. I'm not going to consider that really a failure. It was something more of maybe an adjustment you could call, because nothing did break at this point. I'm going to keep plugging along and working with the scope and shooting with it a little bit longer and see how it holds up even more. I would like to get it out as the conditions improve and I can be outside a little bit more in the cold. It's really chilly today, but I'd like to get it out and some sunny days, or even if we get some snow or fog or something rolling in, and see how the glass is held up to what I've done to it, how durable those coatings are, because I've definitely not been I've not been trying to scratch it, but I haven't been going out of my way to not scratch it, meaning I've been getting some debris on there and just wiping it with my hunting shirt or something like that. So I would like to check into how durable the glass is, but at this point, all the mechanical aspects of the scope, I'm going to say those things are very, very durable, and they do hold up to the standard that Arken's got going on for us. So hope you enjoyed the content. Again, please click that like and subscribe. Give me some comments. What do you think? Are these things holding up? Is this something that you're confident in? And I'm really curious to what people say. I know there's some claims out there that people have said they're worried about the durability of this, so they went with a different brand or a different optic or something. And I think this might be one of the examples of showing you that these things will take a licking and keep on ticking. So until then, check back soon.